The Battle of Britain, fought between July and October 1940, was a defining conflict in World War II. It pitted the Royal Air Force, RAF, against the German Luftwaffe in a desperate struggle for control of the skies over the United Kingdom. At the heart of the battle were iconic aircraft like the British Supermarine Spitfire and Hawker Hurricane, and the German Messerschmitt Bf 109 and Heinkel He 111. These aircraft, propelled by piston engines and armed with relatively primitive weaponry by today's standards, represented the cutting edge of 1940s aviation technology. But what if a single modern jet fighter, say an F-22 Raptor, Eurofighter Typhoon, or even an F-16, were to suddenly appear in the middle of this historic conflict? Could one 21st century aircraft change the course of history, or would the limitations of the era nullify its advantages? Let's explore this fascinating thought experiment by analysing the technological gap, logistical considerations, tactical impact, and broader historical consequences. The difference between a World War II era fighter and a modern jet is nothing short of astronomical. The Spitfire, for instance, had a top speed of about 370 miles per hour, 595 kilometers per hour, a service ceiling of around 35,000 feet, and was armed with 8.303 Browning machine guns. It required constant maintenance and had limited range. In contrast, a modern fighter like the F-22 Raptor can fly at speeds over Mach 2, 1,500 plus miles per hour, has stealth capabilities, advanced radar, beyond visual range missiles, electronic warfare systems, and can track and engage multiple enemies at once. Simply put, no aircraft in 1940 could come remotely close to matching the performance, speed, detection, or firepower of a modern jet. In terms of raw capability, a modern jet would be invincible. With a modern jet inserted into the Battle of Britain, the Luftwaffe would be facing an aircraft they could neither see on radar nor catch in the air. The jet could pick off bombers like the Heinkel He 111, Dornier Do 17, or Junkers Ju-88 from miles away using radar-guided missiles. Even the fastest German fighters of the era, the Bf-19s, would be completely outclassed. They'd never get close enough to engage, and even if they did, they'd be unlikely to land a hit. In a single sortie, a modern fighter could conceivably destroy entire bomber formations without suffering any damage. Imagine an F-22 engaging from 20 miles out, releasing AMRAAM missiles, then circling back with sidewinders or even its 20mm cannon to finish off the remnants. It's not unrealistic to assume a single jet could down dozens of aircraft in a day while being nearly untouchable. Against tightly packed bomber streams with limited maneuverability and little radar awareness, it would be like shooting fish in a barrel. Beyond the physical destruction, the psychological impact would be devastating. The sudden appearance of an aircraft that couldn't be seen, heard, or countered would sow chaos and fear. German bomber crews would be demoralized, their escorts ineffective, and Luftwaffe commanders utterly baffled. Rumors would spread of a ghost plane that destroys whole squadrons in seconds. This terror factor might cause the Luftwaffe to rethink their entire strategy. They could begin limiting bombing raids or pulling back fighter escorts in confusion. The sudden unpredictability could cause a complete breakdown in German aerial operations. Despite its superiority, a modern jet wouldn't be without challenges in 1940. One major issue would be logistics. Jet fuel, JP-8 or similar, wasn't available in 1940s Britain. Without a sustainable fuel supply, the aircraft would be grounded after a few sorties. The same goes for spare parts, specialized tools, and trained maintenance crews. A single modern fighter is a complex machine. Damage from flak, wear and tear, or system failures would require high-tech diagnostics and replacement parts that simply didn't exist in that era. Unless the jet came with a complete support package, maintenance drones, fuel production units, and AI diagnostics, it might only be effective for a limited time. Furthermore, weapons would eventually run out. Missiles can't be manufactured with 1940s technology. Once depleted, the jet might be limited to cannon fire, which, while still highly effective, would reduce its strategic reach. Another complication would be integration into RAF command. The RAF relied heavily on radar and human observers to guide fighters. A modern aircraft would operate on encrypted digital communications, which would be incompatible with 1940s radio systems. Unless adapted, the jet would be operating solo, potentially causing friendly fire incidents or confusion on radar. Still, the jet's onboard systems would allow it to act as a one-man air superiority force, detecting enemy aircraft independently and operating autonomously. Even without integration, it would dominate the skies. So, what would the presence of a modern jet actually change? The Luftwaffe's strategy of bombing RAF airfields, and then London, depended on air superiority. With their formations decimated by a mysterious jet, Germany might abandon the campaign altogether. Morale would plummet. Hitler could decide the invasion of Britain, Operation Sea Lion, was completely unfeasible much earlier than he did. The RAF would receive a massive morale boost. The people of Britain, suffering under nightly bombings, would suddenly feel hope. The mythos of a superplane might even evolve into wartime propaganda, further uniting the nation. Seeing a modern jet in action, British scientists and engineers might push harder on developing jet propulsion and radar. If the aircraft were captured or studied, it could jumpstart technology by decades. Concepts like stealth, composite materials, or missile technology could emerge far earlier. If Germany failed to gain air superiority and suffered massive losses early in the campaign, it could lead to a re-evaluation of the war. Perhaps the Eastern Front is delayed. Perhaps the US joins earlier due to the strange events in Europe. At the very least, Britain remains unconquered, and the Allies gain a stronger foothold. The presence of a modern jet also raises darker possibilities. What if the Germans captured it? Reverse engineering the technology would be nearly impossible, but just the knowledge that such tech existed could alter their priorities. Alternatively, if they realized it was a one-off anomaly, they might resume bombing raids once it disappeared or was grounded. Likewise, if the British misunderstood the jet's purpose or origin, they might fear it as a threat or foreign weapon. Miscommunication could lead to internal conflict or political distrust. Introducing a modern jet fighter into the Battle of Britain would fundamentally alter the course of the conflict, at least in the short term. Its superior speed, stealth, firepower, and sensors would make it a nearly invincible aerial predator against 1940s aircraft. A single aircraft could cripple bomber formations, destroy fighter escorts, and shatter German morale. However, its long-term impact would depend heavily on logistics, maintenance, and ammunition supplies. Without support infrastructure, its dominance might be short-lived. But even in a limited window, the effect on morale, tactics, and historical trajectory could be immense. Ultimately, this scenario highlights the incredible pace of technological advancement in warfare. In just 80 years, we've gone from propeller-driven dogfights to supersonic stealth fighters with precision-guided weaponry. If nothing else, it's a powerful reminder of how the balance of power in war can hinge on just one game-changing innovation.